Hello and welcome to FGC Philosophy. Doing this podcast live today just because I wanted to have a little bit of fun and actually interact maybe afterwards a tiny bit. But yeah, this is where we level up inside and outside the virtual arena. My name is Tavian the Philosopher Napier, and I've done a lot of things: live coaching, competing, not to the highest degree, commentary, game development, so many things in the gaming world. But ultimately, I love video games, but I also love personal development. So I found a way to combine those two worlds, and specifically for the FGC, but now it's kind of been expanding. So I talk about topics as generally as possible, but I love the fighting game community. That's basically the community that has helped me grow as an individual. So that's the one that I mainly focus on. And today's topic is going to be another abstract topic of sorts. It's around the idea of vigilance or mental vigilance, and I'll elaborate a little bit more in just a second. I'm going to try as much as possible not to stumble over my words, but sleep usually helps with that, and I haven't done that as much as I should. Nonetheless, I got a guess. He's in the Discord call, so I'm going to unmute and allow you guys to get to know him as well. Got to make sure I fix his volume. All right, we are here. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what your name is.
All right.
There we go. Welcome.
Nice. What's up? They call me Cake Monster. I have just what they call it. It's a long story. We'll go into that.
Okay.
We'll go into that later. But basically, I've been in and out of the FGC since I was a kid, back from playing in local stores and fighting games to now where I've participated in a few Tekken tournaments, looking to just continue to sharpen my skills in that specific arena as well as other fighting games. I'm also a streamer. And so I thought that, being invited on here was great because I think that I have a lot to offer in the realm of your topic for today.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you said you were a competitor. I was fairly certain you competed yourself, but I could not remember, so that'll work very nicely. But yeah, how did you get the name Cake Monster exactly?
Okay, so let's go back to Halo days. Way back in the Halo days, I was notorious for always talking on the phone to a friend, quote, air quote, double air quote. And so they always said I was caking while I was playing. And then it just kind of went from that to Cake Monster. And it went Cake Master Flex to Cake Master to Cake Monster. So now it's just Cake Monster.
Okay. Well, okay. So I don't understand that term. What is caking? I'm assuming I know what it means, but I'm not sure.
All right. So caking is when you talking on the phone. It's like, when you hang out with the boys and your girl call, but it ain't, you're not married or anything yet. Well, you are married. But,
okay.
But you like, hey girl, how you doing? Oh my God, I'm glad you had a good day. And they're like, bro, quit caking. You got to focus. Look, I got objective
like
B.
macking.
Yeah, like macking.
Okay. Yeah, I'm from I was born in New Jersey. So I think that was a term they used. I wasn't very hip with the lingo because I was I was a recluse, but I had an older brother that also are you about 30-ish?
Yep, 35.
Oh, okay. You're around my age then, so 80s, 90s. Yeah.
Yep.
So okay, interesting. Halo 2, Halo 1. I'm assuming.
Halo 1. Halo 1 was when we didn't have the massive live, so we had LANs where we had a big switch that one friend brought, and we had about 300 feet worth of cord going upstairs to the main room, downstairs to the basement, one going to my room, and all of us brought our TVs. My mom thought we were crazy, but we were gamers to the core. I'd have about 8 to 10 friends over at the house playing because we were just about it.
Yeah, I miss those days. Oh my goodness. So funny story, I used to go by Omega Big Mac as my gamer tag.
Okay, you got to tell me how that name came about.
It was it's a stupid story because the Omega side of it, I played Diablo religiously, Diablo 1 and Diablo 2, and I joined a clan called Omega, and I wasn't even in high school at the time. But then I think my first year of high school, I was riding the bus or middle school or something like that. There was this older kid, and I was eating a breakfast sandwich, those microwavable Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches, those kind of things, sausage, egg, and cheese.
When you were a kid, those were on point.
They were so good. Oh my goodness, that was luxury. But I was eating one of those, and this idiot kid thought I was eating a Big Mac. And like for some reason, everyone after that in high school called me Big Mac, and like I couldn't make it not skip, or like not stick. So like there's only a handful of people that I knew personally, and it didn't really bother me. But I was like, why? No, like the reason was more stupid than the actual name itself. So then after a while, I was like, screw it, that'll be my gamer tag. So I went by Omega Big Mac because my clan tag and my gamer tag. And so I still to this day have like my gamer account, my gamer email is omegabigmac@hotmail.com. And I still have an AOL Instant Messenger as well. Yeah. So what got you into fighting games? Like what's the origin story of how you got into fighting games?
Street Fighter 2, Turbo, Super Nintendo. Me and my cousins would play unconsciously for hours and hours and hours because in our mind, me personally, I was a Ken player. My cousin was a Ryu player, and our third cousin was a Blanca player. And we had this just rivalry within us that was like, yo, I'm the best player at this game. I'm the best. And it just translated across every single game. Every single game from Street Fighter 2 Turbo forward, Street Fighter 3, Third Strike, Capcom vs. SNK, Capcom vs. SNK 2 EO, Marvel vs. Capcom 1, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Like Marvel Superheroes, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, X-Men Children of the Atom. Yeah. Like every single game, there was a competition between all of us. And then we had our older cousin that jumped in. We had other cousins. It became like the family thing to be like, there was two things. Who was the best bowler in the family and who was the best fighting game player in the family? And I couldn't always win best bowler, but I for sure was getting best fighter.
Hey, that's sick. So then what introduced you to the FGC?
It was right when Tekken Tag dropped, and also when I was playing DOA. So I was going to my local gaming store, this place called Game Hits that always sold like they had anything up to current from retro consoles to new, and they would have these weekly tournaments where you could win gift cards and stuff like in-game store credit.
Yeah, smart.
And that's before I knew the logistics in my mind. Like, bro, if I had a store that had in-game store credit, then technically I'm not losing money while everybody's going in and
that's big brain.
$5. We'd have 15 to 20 people come in, and at the time I was a workaholic. So like I'd go to school, get out of work, go to school, go to work, get out of work, and go. And he's like, I know you're always going to show up late, so just so you know, anytime you come in, you got to run a gauntlet. So I was used to that level of pressure where I'd have to go in and face 10 people. Because if I lost any one of those matches, I'd be out, or I'd be in the loser bracket. And it's such a hard climb from the loser bracket because I basically had to go through everybody that already lost. So I basically came in with a loss. So either I lost and I was done, or I lost and I was given another chance. Most of the time, if I lost, I was done. So the first couple times I did it, I got smoked. And then I literally got the game, started labbing, started playing, and then slowly but surely made it to the point where I was the person to beat. If I came in, people just were like, man.
That's cool. And so it was, what made you interested in Tekken? Was it that tournament or was it something else? Like, what do you like about it?
For Tekken, it was, at the time, man, to me, it just had such a good array of characters and a good diversity. And it had things that I could really jump into and play with. I mean, first player I played with was probably Law. Law and then Lei Wulong. I actually really didn't get my hands on playing Brian until Tekken 7. Until then, I would rotate between Bruce Irving, Huang, Lei Wulong.
Okay. What's interesting is I play Brad Wong in DOA. And people keep telling me to play Lei, and I feel like the transition's not going to be as smooth as I'd like. No. Like, he looks like he plays differently, even though he has the same fighting style. I don't know how to explain it to people, but I'll try him one day. He's a cool character. He looks cool.
Well, and the thing with Brad Wong is he's a full fluid drunken master.
Yes.
His whole persona, kit, style,
it's all drunken style, yeah.
Whereas Lei is like,
Kung Fu.
I'll partially get into it for a hot second, but I'm going to go ahead and switch to this tiger stance, switch to this bear stance, switch to the snake stance. So
he's basically Udyr.
100%.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. League of Legends players. I forgot you played League too. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's my mainstream. I'm on this close to gold. I'm so close. It's so frustrating.
Nice.
I made it to promos last night, and
Hmm.
then won two, lost two, lost three. So I
So,
had so so I
okay.
had, so once if you lose promos, they reset you down so many
Mm-hmm.
points, and then you can either win one and be back in promos, or you lose and then the climb is twice as hard. So I lost, and then I lost two more times. So now I have to win, I think, three or four to
Mm-hmm.
get to promos. But because I made it the first time, they give you a win.
Yep, that's nice. You're
Yeah.
you're in your promos to get into gold, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's best 3 out of 5. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, this is pretty nerve wracking. I haven't been grinding as much as I used to, but when I was working at Western, that was the one game I played outside of fighting games, and I grinded my way to gold. That was pretty fun. That was pretty nice. I felt like that was well earned. It's easier to get gold in Street Fighter than it is to get it in League for me. Jeez. But
Yeah.
so you play jungle, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh man, that's such a bummer because I main jungle as well, so that like, and we're about the same skill level, but I'd have to play like support or something in order to queue with
Oh
you.
no. I'd rotate to mid or top or support. As long as
Okay.
I'm not ABC. I
That's
But
basically my philosophy. But my best two roles happen to be support and jungle. And jungle is just a roaming support, basically. Support or
I,
carry. The
yep.
way I play, anyway.
Well, I mean, in general, the jungler is team support,
Mm-hmm.
because you go in, like I was explaining this to somebody a couple streams ago. Sometimes when you play jungle, your goal isn't to get the kill, but to exhaust resources. Like you go
Yep.
in, they get
Get
freaked
the
out, they
flash.
flash,
Mm-hmm.
boom, or they think they can fight you, so they ignite, but they can't kill you. So now they've wasted an ignite. So now when your laner comes back, I'm like, bro, no ignite. You can go in if you want, and I have that worry of, oh, he's gonna burn me to death.
Hmm. So, unrelated to the main topic of tonight, but I'm curious to know, like, what similarities in terms of like mindset have you noticed that transfer over to both games in Street Fighter or in fighting games and in League of Legends, if at all?
Ooh, uh, the the idea of losing and coming back. So if you could put a fighting game in comparison to League of Legends, every time you fight somebody, that's a fight. That's all your rounds. It's a one round. You either win or you lose or you draw. And you do this repeatedly over the course of 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, however long that match lasts.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to constantly think about what you can do, what you can't do, how much damage they're putting out, how much damage you're putting out. If I'm gonna lose, do I have an escape plan? Do I have backup? Is this going to turn into a tag battle, quote unquote, or is this going to be a 1v1 that I need to finish quickly to prepare for the next fight? With, it's like playing some modes. You could consider some parts of League a survival mode. You'll finish off a fight and somebody else will come in, and you're like round two, and you didn't get any health back, you didn't get any special items.
Mm.
You're just where you're at, and you're like, okay, either I take this fight or I do what I can to get away from this fight.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. It kind of makes me think of Injustice or something like that a little bit with the health bar situation that you described.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say playing fighting games and coming back from like a life deficit, that is entirely possible in League of Legends as well. It just seems, for me personally, like the execution mechanical skills of it has come a little bit more slowly. But as I've been maining one character and actually getting really good with them, you realize that there's a lot of strategy that you can implement or counter strategy in order to beat your opponent. And then sometimes it's just like retreating or going to a teammate or baiting them into a tower or something like that. Because like you have stuns, I have CC, so you can do certain things. Plus we both have shield buffs, so it's like using the tools that you have and winning from a life deficit, figuring out that strategy, that game plan, or knowing that you might just be overpowered and like just can destroy them with just a little bit of health. It's good situational awareness.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think the biggest thing that I've learned this season in League is how to properly gauge my minimum and maximum resources ongoing throughout the game.
Okay.
Like when I first started playing this season, I can honestly say, I wasn't watching tutorials, I wasn't watching videos, I knew how to jungle, but I didn't take in turn the macros of jungling, the concepts of, knowing where to put wards to be aware of where your jungler is, knowing the spacing you need between engaging and disengaging, knowing, what resources they have and don't have, knowing, cooldowns on abilities. There's certain champs that if I'm jungling against them, they're unless it's somebody that does something just off the cuff, their jungle pattern it's like memorized. Like I'll be playing, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a Warwick. He does fairly good clears on single targets. Versus targets, it's a little bit harder. It takes a little bit more time. I'm gonna go single, which is red blue Gromp. It's a three camp level 3 clear, but it gives me plenty of time to either invade his jungle, because by that time, if he's done too much, he's low, or he's at half health, which gives me the advantage. I can steal via smite, so I'll save a smite. They call it slow clear because you're not using smite, but I call it advantage clear because I have a smite available. So while this Warwick has busted his smite over on his side of the camp, when I come over to the red, he's still got 30 seconds before his smite comes up, or 15 seconds before his smite comes up. Mine is ready. And I'm just sitting in the thing watching him fight red. And I'm like, yep, and smite, and stun. All right, cool. That's 2 hits. Boom. Tiger, 3, 4, 5. Okay, Conqueror proc. I'm now going to get healing. Now I can actually do a sustained fight with him because I heal for 15% of my damage. Whereas if he's not playing it right, he'll go into rage mode where he increases his attack speed, but I stun him before he finishes. I leave with maybe 30 or 40 health. He's dead. I switch into turtle stance, hit something, get some health back, make my rounds. But now I've gotten the jungle advantage, the smite advantage, the river buff, the river crab advantage, and now my team has secured vision in the top river. I immediately head to the bottom river because I'm going to have to fight him again immediately. But because I didn't use any of my smites, I still have a smite up by the time he gets there. So now he's fighting me again, and I'm at a smite advantage because I didn't smite at all in the jungle.
I like that. Yeah, you have a character that kind of complements that too. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I might be able to do that with her, with Vi. I'm thinking about that. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But that actually ties pretty nicely into the main topic, as a matter of fact, because the main topic is indeed vigilance, or mental vigilance. And I want to make sure like the listeners are on the same page as well. So I have the actual description, and then we can kind of go into it a little bit deeper. But it's the action or state of keeping careful watch of possible danger and difficulties. For example, security duties that demand long hours of vigilance, which means you're actively thinking about the things that can harm you, or in the case of a fighting game or a game like League of Legends, lose. I think that's an incredibly important topic to discuss because it's not really, I don't see people talking about it very blatantly, but they do in a roundabout way. And sometimes they try to say, like, obviously like anti-airing, they're not saying, be vigilant or anything like that, but they are saying you have to watch for the anti-air. But I think since there's no actual word to the action, sometimes things get lost in translation, and it's like, okay, I know I'm supposed to anti-air, but how are you training it properly? How are you actively keeping it in your mind while also being vigilant for other things? Because there's a give and a take there depending on your level of experience. In your example, League of Legends is a great game to talk about this because it is a very mentally taxing game because of the macro and the micro play. There's so many things to keep in mind, and they're not all things that you have to think about during the entirety of the match. It may just be very specific, like, neutral monster, neutral creeps, neutral camps, stuff like that. They have a timer. You have to be aware of them and know to check on them, but they pop up in different situations. The way you fight in a team fight versus how you fight depending on like who's there. There's so many more characters on screen that you have to think about the matchup and where to be. Like if a Morgana's on the screen, you need to make sure you're not in her line of sight for her stun, her snare, like just so many things. And it's challenging to keep it all in your mind, especially while you're stressed. So there's this challenge of how do I keep things at top of mind so that I play at my best. So I'm curious from your point of view, and just in terms of the definition, in terms of how I described it, how do you deal with that challenge so far?
Trials and tribulations, sir. To me, I think the time I've spent getting the experience in the individual matchups, in addition to I have to pay attention to all the lanes. I think that's also an important thing. Being mindful of who can come from behind you or versus who's in front of you is almost more important, because I can see, okay, in front of me, he's got this skill, this ability. It's Warwick. He's got the taunt. He can ramp up and chase me if I do try to get away, because he can activate Bloodlust and it increases movement speed. So I know that if I start this fight, I either better be ready to finish it or I have to have an escape to another teammate. Even using the simple commands of, hey, assist me. And so that they at least know, I'll throw like 3 assists out. So one to mid, 2 to top, like assist, so that they know, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm going in. If you get pushed or if you have priority on the rotation, come over. And I have no problem baiting him over to you, because I know you'll either finish the job and keep me alive, or I'll die and you'll finish the job. The biggest thing to take into account with having that is you don't get it, especially in a game like League, you don't get it overnight. You can watch all the videos you want, and they help to gain a forethought on it. But until you're actually in the situation, you don't learn how to handle it until you're there.
So for you, how would you? So let's say a situation happens. Like, you ever have a situation where you are familiar with it, but for some reason you still don't react to it properly, and it mainly has to do with just you forgot about the situation. Like, have you ever had a time where you forgot something that you already know and then got punished for it?
100%.
So I guess from your experience, how do you currently, if at all, like, go about handling that kind of situation? Because everyone learns a little bit differently, and like one of the things I try to emphasize throughout all my episodes is that everyone's brain works a little bit differently, but I think it's important for us to be able to pull from everyone else's different experiences, because your solution is definitely going to be different from mine versus somebody else. So that's kind of where I'm coming with this. Like, I'm not expecting anyone to have the surefire one way to answer it, but just wanted to preface that.
I understand it happens. It's something that I forgot, so I accept that. Yeah, I should not have went in there. He has a back. He can get back. I didn't see if his flash was busted. I didn't bust his flash. Got me killed. Throw out some sorries to the teammates. Like, hey, I know I was a little deep there. I know it was a risky move. It was definitely a risk reward kind of assessment. And then you just bounce back, because in a game like that, you cannot let one death ruin your mental, because that's how tilting happens. Tilting happens when that one death you let override all the good things that you can do with the rest of the game. And it's a very common theme in League. Somebody dies, 3 times in the first 5 minutes, and the first thing they usually type is GG.
Yeah, they give up. Yeah. I think a lot of people struggle with taking accountability for their emotions and their thoughts. Because what you're talking about, it sounds like accountability, like taking accountability for the mistake that you made, but not getting caught up in your feelings. Because everyone wants to justify how they feel rather than trying to think about things in a more productive way. It's like they're like, I'm mad about this situation. It's BS, or I'm going to give up. I'm like, it's already over. There's no way of winning it. Rather than trying to find a solution or like holding themselves accountable, they just get caught up in just trying to justify why they feel that way. I don't know. It's kind of interesting how many people do that, and it's not just kids. Like, it sounds like a very childish thing to do, but adults do it as well. I come across it all the time. What about you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Even in fighting games, I've seen matches between people that I'm not gonna say because I'm not about to put them on blast.
Right? Yeah, no.
But I've seen it where they'll get 2 solid wins back to back. And then they will slip up on that 3rd win and it tanks them. It tanks them real quick, because in their mind, they've already set their own loss conditions. And it's really important that when you take a loss, you take it, you acknowledge it, you accept it, but you move on because you've got another fight. That's a lot of things I've been seeing lately are the, first to 5, first to 10s, first to 25s, first to 100s for Tekken.
Yeah.
And the level of mental vigilance vigilance that is required for that is beyond astonishing, because you could be 10-10 with somebody and they get 2 on you,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden your mental starts to play on you. Then it's 10-14, then it's 11-15, then it's 13-17, and you take a win, but you lose twice, and that carries all the way to the end. And next thing you know, it's 84 to 99.
Mm, that's a
And
lot.
you're like, I don't want to lose like this. I keep losing, but I'm not fixing anything.
Right. Yeah.
And you're not trying anything. You haven't experimented anything. Meanwhile, this person downloaded you 30 matches ago.
Been there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Man, that gives me some it's been a while since I've done like anything more than a first of 10, I guess, that I've counted or kept track of. But I remember fighting this one Bison player from Grand Rapids, and he was my demon for the longest time. He would always beat me in tournament. I used to I would get to grand finals and he would destroy me every time. If I ran into him in tournament, he'd beat me, him or a Laura player. But I finally conquered the Laura player, got to him. We played like casuals. We played like a first to 50, and I beat him like one time that night. And I was like, I remember because like I would beat him in a round because I'd be like, I'm gonna try this and do it, and then I'm gonna beat him, and then I'd beat him, and then like the next round he would have an answer to that, and he would turn it around on me, and I'm like, bro, what is happening? And this guy just was so aware of the situation. It took me like a good year to study up the character and finally beat him in a tournament. Oh man, it's incredibly rewarding to actually remember to pay attention to things. And that's actually a really good important topic to talk about, is why is vigilance important? Like why does it matter? Why do you even need it? And the 3 main reasons that I can think of are that you objectively perform better, you objectively perform better more consistently, and you have the capability to learn faster. And I think for the last one, I think that one's really important because the people that I was talking about who get caught up in their feelings, they are so focused on, they're so distracted by their emotions that they don't see all of this useful information in front of them. They're too caught up in like complaining about a character being OP, or complaining about a player's playstyle, or talking about how bad they are, how they don't learn. And I'm not trying to downplay them. It's, they're legitimate emotions and feelings. However, it's so common now that it just like sometimes it gets to me. Either way, personally, those are the main 3 benefits that I've seen. I'm curious to know if, for you, what other benefits to actively being vigilant with like what you're thinking, what you're doing.
It improves your future experience. I think being vigilant requires you to take loss. Being vigilant is kind of, to me, a double-edged sword, because you could be vigilant and take hundreds of losses. A good example of this, me and Grand Kai play Tekken a lot, and objectively, he is definitely better than me. I can get wins on him, but I know that he's also taken the losses he's gotten to me with different strides than I've taken to him. And it was something I had to learn over time, where me and him play each other so much that we know what each person is going to do. It's to the point where it turns in from a simple game to a game of chess, where we use the same character. We both use Brian, and it's okay. Well, if I do, down back 3, does that give me enough space? Where's my space on that? What's my plus frames? Is there any plus frames? Do I have an advantage here? Is he just going to hit me with a light hit because he knows I'm going to try to do something heavy? Because me, I'm a big, I call my style of Brian the aggressive showman type, because I will, if I'm on you, I will literally poke you to death, because that's my style. Him, he's more methodical. He will play around my play style and stomp me in very small areas, but those areas turn into big gaps. And he's learned to adapt to other people and then use it against them. Like, to me, he has this massive advantage on people when he plays them, where if you play him too much and you guys are considered the same level, he will overcome you because his adaptability is higher. And the biggest thing is that relates to is vigilance. To me, mental vigilance is that. What can I do to adapt to a losing game? What can I do mentally to change my thought process? Maybe I'm so used to the same Brian strings, the same layout, the same set of kicks, the same way to get to, a upper to a corkscrew, that you see it all. If you've seen it in the first 3 matches and we're playing the 10, what can I do to change that so that way you don't know what I'm going to do next?
Yeah.
I have to consistently get you off your game so I can stay on mine. Because if we start switching pace to you, I might be in a rut because I can't adapt as fast as you can.
Right.
And so, taking that idea and concept of adaptability, and stringing it with mental vigilance, I feel like your ability to adapt when you are losing turns into what makes you push past that next person.
Yeah. How are you utilizing that information? Yep. It's kind of like a 2-part question at the least, because part of the question is, what are you being vigilant for? And then how are you using that information, and how useful is that information as well? Because information, for example, could be, what patterns are you noticing? And then when you say patterns, what do you mean? Like, what movement patterns are they doing? What tendencies do they have? What block strings do they use? What are they doing on wake up most consistently? Because you can boil it down to like a fine science depending on how you think, or it could be very, very abstract. It could be like, okay, every single time I've been knocked down from this combo, they did this thing. They've only done anything else 1 time. So there's like a 90% chance, that they'll do this move, or 1 in 10 chance that they'll do this move because they've knocked me down 10 times. They've only done it once. Now I have some odds to work with. You can do something like that, and now you have this information. Now you can turn it into a strategy. Okay, more than likely, I can probably do this button, score a knockdown. And I also know that every time I do this knockdown, they do this thing. So instead, what I'm going to do is after I do my move, I'm going to do the knockdown and do a different thing to bait them out to do this other thing. And so you can take that information, flip it around, and use it as a strategy, or at least a test. Obviously it's a test because you don't know if it's going to work or it's not, because you don't know what for sure they're going to do. But you have odds to work with that. It's not random. It's some sort of logic to it based off of how often something has happened. So you're being vigilant for certain information, but then you're converting that vigilant information into something that can be tested and then used against your opponent.
Yes, that is, yeah, all of that. Well, it's because it's like you said, it's everybody receives the same data in certain situations, but how you use that data is the difference between you getting the advantage and not.
Yeah, and I would argue that the information is displayed for them, but I don't know if people always receive that information, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, because like people get mental blocks very fast in especially fighting games.
Yeah,
people will definitely hit a mental block if you stop too much of what they're trying to do because you've seen it so many times.
Yeah,
and like, okay, this is a 5-hit string, but between hit 2 and 3 and between hit 4 and 5, I can stop it, put you in the air, and deal more damage to you than you just did.
Yeah.
Mentally, sometimes people are like, it turns from, okay, I need to change this to, oh, how did they do that? No, that definitely should have went through. No, that connected. I swore it connected. Bro, you're cheating. Are you hacking? No, you're a hacker. I'm like, no, I'm not. Look, I'm smart, but I'm not hack smart.
Yeah. all they're doing now is trying to justify their loss. It's like they're trying to justify why they didn't win instead of actually looking around for that information. There's so many different reasons why people don't receive information too. Like, people don't have just genuine discipline to be like, okay, I'm going to look for this information. Some people don't think to do that. There's been times where I autopilot and I'm just playing, pressing buttons, doing what I know, rather than consistently taking in information. Being tired or diet and exercise are really basic examples, or they could be so caught up in their feelings that they don't have the capacity to look for that information, or they just could be I think this is the most interesting one for me, is that there's players who plateau because they're how do I explain this? They're unbalanced in terms of their skills acquired versus their level of knowledge. Usually there's an inconsistency. There's players who are like very knowledgeable about how the game works, but then they lose a lot because they don't understand, like they haven't either developed skills like execution. They can't do a combo to save their life. They don't know how to do meaties. They don't understand like internally how to do certain things that are core to playing and understanding Street Fighter from like a fundamental level, or any fighting game really. But then you have the people who are like your combo artists, like your combo monsters, or like they can do anything with a fight stick or a gamepad. But for some reason they still lose because they're so predictable, or they don't do certain things and stuff like that. And so there's people who can't receive information because there's a deficiency on like either execution or in like intellect or something like that. I think that's also like they just don't have the capacity to take in the information. And I've been guilty of this several times because I'm more cerebral, so I know more than I can do. And so as I've been leveling up and focusing on hit confirming and a few other basics, like I remember when I started learning how to do a meaty. I didn't learn meaties. Like I had never done a meaty in any game on purpose until Street Fighter V, like season 3. I was gold before I learned how to do my first meaty. And as I started doing that, I unintentionally became vigilant to new information. I wasn't doing it on purpose, but I was in the lab. I would test out, okay, I'm going to do a random wake up and I'm going to try to do I'm going to react and do my wake up options on them, like my meaty setups. And so I got to the point to where I could identify which wake up they were doing, back rise, quick rise, or no rise, and I would do the appropriate meaty to accommodate that, or like a mix up for them. And I realized after doing that and going to play ranked, after training that for a while, I just naturally looked for that information. Like I wasn't trying to think about it actively. It's just I had trained it, and all of a sudden now I'm looking at their patterns. I'm like, wait, this guy always back rises. He never quick rises or no rises every single time. So let me just test this out. And then like one person would, depending on the certain button that I knocked him down with, he started doing different rises based off of that. And I'm like, okay, so if I train certain skills, then I just become more aware of the situation. But if I don't work on those skills, then it's very likely it's going to be harder for me to comprehend what that player is doing and be able to even see the tendencies there, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think that ironically that works both ways, because as you're starting to develop the counter options to what they're doing, and you're able to sense it, obviously via experience and via labbing and testing, you then become so much more acute to what your options are.
Yes.
When you first start doing stuff, and it was same with me. When I first started playing Brian, I was like, oh yeah, I'm knocking you. I'm 4-4-2 in you. I'm 4-4-4 in you. Like I'm just hitting big hits, and it was so cool to hit. And then the more I started playing, and I started playing with players who would not let that slide, would not let Snake Edge go, would not let me just play basic. Or it was commonly coined to me, I was playing hood Tekken, because I was just going in, not paying attention, doing what I had to do. I could get around just enough to win, but not be necessarily dominant. And now I'm playing with a lot more thought and focus into what I can and can't do, how to react, utilizing 360 movement a lot better, understanding what I can get around. I'd say maybe 2 or 3 months ago just started understanding the concept of plus and minus frames.
Oh really?
Like I would just play and I'd be like, okay, I know this. I didn't know it as plus and minus frames. I just knew it as, this gives me a little time. This gives me a little time to set up for this.
Wow. Okay.
This gives me no time. In my mind, it was no time or more time. So I was like, okay, if I do this, this gives me no time. Like I'm gonna get hit for this. I didn't know it as whiff punish. I didn't know Okies. I didn't know any of that. I was explaining this to somebody how basic my thought concept of Tekken was. And then I started playing with more experienced people and going into streams and listening to the way they talk. And they're like, oh, okay, he's doing an Oki. Okay, here's 50-50. And I'm like, oh, that's what I was doing. Like my
Yeah.
mind, like multiple light bulbs just blew out repeatedly as I'm listening and learning about, okay, so this right here puts me in plus, which means that, this gives me an extra amount of frames, and I can react better, I can do more with, I can shuffle around with, or I can just let it go just to test, or as I'd call it, the skill test. Because sometimes when you play somebody, you just want to see what they can do, and then if
Hmm.
you see that's all they have to offer, then you're like, okay, time to really mess them up, time to go in on them, time to put pressure on, let me see how they react to this, because not everybody can handle that level of pressure, and people do it all the time. That's that mental part where you think you beat the brakes off somebody, and they're like, hey, let's run it back one more time, and then you can't touch them, and you're like, what just happened?
I've been on both sides of that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
me too. Me too.
Man, yeah, it's really interesting hearing you talk about that, because like I hear a lot of people who say that where they get pretty good at fighting games, but they don't know anything about frame data, and it's funny to me because I'm a former animator and I've worked on fighting games before, so I know frame data. Like I understand how frame data works from a game development level, and then getting into competitive games after that. Getting into competitive fighting games after being an animator and people talking about frame data, I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure I understand what that means. So like the concept of that part of it like came very, very naturally to me because I know how that works. So whenever I hear people talking about frame data, I'm like, let me explain it to you, please. I know what I'm doing. Like I want to like help them because it's such useful information if you don't overthink it. But then
Mhm.
again, I forget that I've been looking at frames for so long that I've been pushing frames, animating fighting game characters that I I probably naturally know things that other people like struggle to conceptualize, I suppose. Whereas other things, like I like that you said Hood Tekken because I do think that culturally, different people play differently on average based on their, I'll call it a FGC culture, because it could be like Japanese FGC as a whole have a different mentality than us, but I'm sure they have different divisions or regions that are also rivals that also have a very different play style overall, like maybe more micro in terms of that location. Similarly, like West Coast and East Coast, they have a different culture, like they behave differently, but they also, their play style as a whole reflects it, while you do have the different nuanced characters within that culture that might stand out. It's just an interesting
Oh,
observation there.
oh yeah, that's like people see the Tekken region, and you know they put Michigan in a high scope because so many Tekken players now hail from this state that originally we've always been here,
Hmm.
but we didn't get I don't think a lot was brought to us in the realms of, you know we came to fight. We want to be challenged. We want to be put on a bigger level,
Yeah.
and so we need to start playing on these bigger levels and being more responsive and going to more events. And you have people, that are going all over these places, but haven't been shot out, haven't been recognized, and a lot of it turns into, what can they do different to improve? And it's a lot more than just playing in house. You have to be able to go out, go to these tournaments that you might not be comfortable with, i.e., the online landscape.
Hmm.
Everybody knows Tekken does not have the best net code in the world
Still Harada.
for playing Tekken,
Yeah.
but at this, given what we're going through and what, like, the chances of having a bunch of live events is not possible, not without high scrutiny in relation to, um well, how could you do this during a pandemic when you should be aiming for people's safeties? Like, you need to do your best to keep these players.
Oh, like an in-person one.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand. It's a struggle.
Whereas to throw an online event now, it's like, hey, if you DC, you know we just got to boot you. We'll give you a chance to come back if you have a low code or you're not hardwired connect. It makes the event hard for both players.
Hmm.
And so you want to continue to aim towards having this thought process based in, um, building these players up, but helping them to get notoriety. And then that's probably why we've focused so hard on the online aspect over this year, because a lot of these people have been now worn down mentally dealing with a pandemic, let alone now you want them to play a fighting game for 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, stay in a tournament for, you got 16 players playing best of three. These games can take, on a good match, unless somebody's just getting washed, it's 10, 15 minutes, a set. How do you account for that? How do you determine if somebody can be mentally prepared for that? And you can't until it happens.
So you were talking about mental acuity before, and I think that was a really great example. And that's because, like in chess, there's a really good book, I reference this all the time if you listen to my podcast, called The Art of Learning by Josh Weitzkin. And in that book, he talks about how he's able to learn, thank you, Ian, learn how to reduce the amount of information that he's paying attention to. Because like in a fighting game, there's only so many things that you actually need to be vigilant for. If you're familiar with the situation, then you know the most likely outcomes and what can't happen. And so mental vigilance seems very overwhelming because you have to be aware of everything. But in reality, you only have to be aware of a very small amount of things, which frees up a lot of mental space and goes back to that topic of decision fatigue that I've talked about in the past, where you're making so many decisions that you fatigue your brain and you can't make good decisions anymore. Your willpower is very weak, which makes you more susceptible to getting tilted and losing even further. But yeah, so accountability is really, really huge. That's just in a sense of like, don't focus on the negative aspect of it. Don't praise yourself for too much. That's okay to praise yourself when you do right, but just look at the information without being so attached to the emotional side of it, which easier said than done, I understand. Obviously, there's also research. Sometimes if you just don't know something, you might have to go and learn it and then go back and memorize it. Memorization is not something that comes naturally to me. So I've read like 2 or 3 books on how to memorize something because I suck at it by nature, but you can train it to where, okay, I know how to memorize this. I'm going to keep familiarizing myself. Like, don't be afraid to look at information you've already learned in the past and be like, yes, refresher. Go into the lab and try something really simple. Like, what is this on block again? Oh, okay, I can't do anything there. Stuff like that. And then the last thing I said before is visualization. Not just looking at the information available to you, but actually creating a strategy in your mind in regards to what you want to do. And like I said before with Takedo, it's not just being aware of the information, but also creating something for you to anchor onto by visualizing an outcome that you want. And so that you're more familiar with that outcome. Now, obviously, there's some practice with not being emotionally attached to said outcome once you visualize it. But as long as you just try to have some sort of compass, those are the things that are going to help you to be more vigilant. On top of actually learning certain skills. Learning skills is always going to be good. Like learning how to hit confirm, practicing the art of hit confirming, and making it harder and harder, you will naturally be more vigilant for that information. So when you throw out a button, you may have to remind yourself to pay attention to if it confirmed or not, but eventually that will become automatic. So certain things will become automatic if you actually just train the skill. Anything else you want to add on there?
I mean, I think we covered a lot within what it takes in regards to the mental side of vigilance, the vigilance side of mental, and putting them both together. I think that we've covered a lot of topics to help people reflect on the concepts and ideas that it's a lot easier to beat yourself up than it is to turn something negative into a positive. And I think that through having the open dialogue and discussions, it's really going to help future fighters, future gamers, mobile players. This isn't something that is just specifically FGC related. This goes towards shooters, missing your shot, not knowing your angles, not knowing your positioning, not knowing who's around you, not properly gauging whether you can win the fight or not win the fight, and properly adjusting for your next death. That's your Call of Duty. That's your Overwatch team fights. That's your, the ones where you die and have to go back in because if you don't, you lose. That's your fighting games, lost, 1-2, lost 3. And you have to play that person again. That rematch, especially with Tekken. That you want a revenge match? Accept 10 seconds. Yeah, I want it.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, you can't beat yourself into extinction. And even if you take a couple of losses, take that time to develop your mental mind, your mental warfare that's within yourself. Most of the time, most people beat themselves before a person gets their hands on them.
Well said. I guess the last thing to add on to that is, what do you got going on and where can they find you?
Currently I am working from home. I'm a teacher. So you can catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/ Cayke with a Y _monster. I'm there every night playing games. My main game is League of Legends, but I also do Monster Hunter World, Among Us, Dead Cells, Wizard of Legend, Call of Duty. Basically, if a game catches my eye, I'm like, yeah, I need to play this. And I go at it, because to me, like, being a gamer is more than just the one game you play. It's about you just having a deep appreciation for everything, from the cinematography to the framework to the style that they did for that game to, you know, the characters, the development, the voices, the sound, the music, like everything that encompasses one game has so many parts to it that you shouldn't limit yourself to just that game, unless you just are strictly that, you know, you're sponsored by Tekken, then you're not going to see me play nothing else. But hey, Tekken. But
It's like me in Street Fighter.
Oh yeah, you know, you have a defined passion for the game, and so when you comment, and I've noticed this, like, not to just go off subject, but when you commentate Street Fighter, you can tell the way you talk, the smile, the passion, it's all there. You're like, oh, was that a? Oh yeah, that was a hard. Yep, to this to this. Oh yeah, nope. That's getting countered. Watch. Yep, there's a counter right there. He's gonna go in. He's gonna hit this, and this, and you're like the John Madden of Street Fighter. because your ability to navigate the mental landscape between the players goes a lot deeper than just what you watch.
I love, there's like two art forms. There's the art of the actual gameplay and like almost like the martial arts style, but then also with martial arts, the big part of the art is actually in the mental game of being able to anticipate what your opponent is going to do, like just creating that strategy. I got to appreciate it, and I got to share that appreciation with the rest of the people. So thank you, sir. Thank you for being on the show today. I greatly appreciate that. As always, guys, social media, you can find me. I'll have the links in the description. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate the Patreons as well that support me for doing this. I am still working on the Patreon benefits. I am actually getting a business coach to help me with some ideas as well. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much. And as always, I'll see you all in the next one.